Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences in hopes that you could potentially connect to start the journey to healing. Today, we have Alexander Campbell, and boy, does he have a testimony to serve. It's unbelievable that someone could have 600 years of parole, but Alexander going to tell you a little bit more about that once we get into everything. Alexander, welcome to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. How are you all?
Good.
Okay. My name is Alexander Campbell. I currently work with Metalworks, which is a mental health outpatient program, as well as a member of the, how do I put this? We'll just say On Global Leadership, which is a life coach academy type of situation. And I help returning citizens when they come back to, change their life, make their life better, and be an example to others.
That's wonderful. So take us, from the beginning. What was life like growing up? Did you experience any trauma growing up? What was your home structure like?
Well, the home structure, I had a hell of a mother. She was good people. My father was good to an extent. And what I mean by that was, from what my mother told me before passing, is that my father was a very different man until he went to Vietnam. And then when they come back from Vietnam, there was a challenge. The traumas that he suffered there. And when he came back, wasn't the same dude. Became an alcoholic, suffered from a lot of nightmares and things like that. And he was just very abusive. So when I look at the childhood aspect, that was the beginning of the traumas and a lot of different other things that altered the course of life. Grew up in a military family. It was interesting. Got to travel. I remember going to Hawaii for some years before coming back to DC, when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And again, he was very changed. Then that was due to the Vietnam War and a lot of things like that. And that had a gross effect on a lot of different things. The family dynamic, as you can imagine, was unstable, because when you're dealing with abuses, the verbal, and somebody's going through their own mental health issues based on what they seen in those days, and then to come back and not to be accepted. I can only imagine what his struggle was, but we felt the pain of what he went through as far as that is concerned. That's how I grew up in those early years.
So can you tell us some of the traumas that you went through that affected you when your dad came home and he went from one person to the totally different person?
Well, dealing with the fears of the fact that when he came home from a club or anything like that, I remember in particular, I was with a cousin. She was older, she was babysitting. And I was about maybe 5 or 6. And I had just woke up, because he had woke me up, and he asked me a question to the fact of, was I good? No, he asked me, was I bad? And I accidentally said yes, because, what child is, aware at that age, just waking up? Oh man, he beat me. I remember, because we had the spokes on the bed with the thing coming up, because they were bunk beds. And I remember he made me put my hands through those, and he sat in the middle of on the middle of my back, and he beat the shit out of me. So I remember that. And I remember always being quiet as a child, because I was afraid to speak a lot of times out of fear that he would beat me. And being a little boy at that time, you always think about when you get big. And so that's when, things change, and that's going into your teenage years. Because once I started getting older and bigger, and that abuse, you never forget. Going back, I remember when we were in Hawaii, and I remember being so angry that I pushed another little boy in front of a car intentionally to see him get hit. It just so happened the car stopped. So I was already on some other stuff in regards to the abuse, whereas whatever I did to somebody else, it was just what I did to somebody else.
Wow. That's horrible to hear. But it's once we get older, we see the kind of traumas our parents were going through as well. Not to excuse it, but um, they're fighting their battles the best way they could as well. Now, how was there ever a change, of scenery at home? Did it cause was it cause for anybody to leave first or pass away? How did things ever change, at home, whereas you felt comfortable or felt, able to speak or speak your mind?
Well, I remember when my parents was about to get a divorce, and I was asked, and I was young. I was real young. Maybe 12, 13, maybe, yeah, about 12, maybe, no, about 11 or 12. And my mother asked who I wanted to stay with. And the way my father looked at me, I was shook. And I said, with him. But in that, because I was asked an adult question at such an early age, my mother resented that. And she brought it up years later. And that had a dramatic effect on who I was with, irregardless. Because, as a child, you always felt safer with your mother than with your father at a lot of times, especially in that situation. And even though she tried, it was because I had a younger sibling she was more protective of. Because I remember a conversation where she said, well, you're not going to fuck him up like you did him. So I didn't forget those things. And, when you hear those type of things, you're like, wow, damn, I'm fucked up. I'm like, damn, what chance did I stand? And, in a young mind, those things build up resentment because those, like you see, I'm 56 years old now. I have never forgot that. So, as a man, I understand what that was like. I understand now what that was then and why it is what it is. You know what I mean? You just understand things differently.
So you go from your dad abusing you, put in a situation where do I go live? And you chose your dad. So I'm assuming you've moved with your dad. Did the abuse escalate?
Never end up going with my father, stayed up with my mother because
Okay,
my
good.
father was on some other stuff. And, he just had some issues at that time. And I was grateful to stay with my mother, but there was always a chasm there. It wasn't that she didn't love me as a mother, but, a child's perception changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know why. You're like thinking, okay, this dude done shook me up because the way he looked at me, I don't want to take another abuse. I ain't big enough. I can't handle this. So fear dictates a lot of times what you think is best.
Mm-hmm.
And so I acted on that fear as a child until I got bigger. Like I said, when you get bigger and you're older, ball game changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you start making a decision. Because I remember, I know I was about 14, but now I'm looking my father eye to eye. I'm 6'1". We're about the same size. I'm always fighting now. There's no clue. I'm always fighting. I'm swinging baseball bats. Because now we moved out the city because we're no longer in Hawaii and we're no longer over in Southeast. But now I'm out here in PG and, fighting, always putting in work. So I'm not scared. Whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I remember we got into it and he got the best of me because he was on top of me holding my hands down. I said, hey, you're going to have to kill me because I'm coming. Because I'm going to kill you if you don't kill me. And when he let me up, I left because I had how when we're young, you got the play sisters and stuff. I had one of those. I went to her house And I stayed over there for a nice little minute, and I was plotting and planning. But, you know, I had this, man, I never forget. I had this piece of pipe. That's a rebar wire. It's what you do would put on under roads and stuff like that. That joint had to be about this long. And I knew that because he was always drinking, and I knew that when he was snoring, he couldn't hear, or so I would think. And I said I was going to bust his head wide open with that, and don't stop until I know he dead. But when I was getting ready to do it, he had already moved out. So that's a blessing on everybody's behalf.
It sounds like it, because it sounds like you was dead set on it, and respectfully, because you know, when enough is enough after a while. So I completely understand where your mind was at. How you did tell us a little bit about, you know, the anger that imposed on you. What kind of personal, you know, roller coaster did that take you on? You know, with school, with garnering friendships, you know, sustaining anything in your personal life. You know, how did that affect you there?
Coming up, what I realized now, that in high school, my best friend was a basketball. Back in the day, I could ball. I mean, I was legit. I could play ball. And that was the only friend that I really had. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't think anybody would understand. And, you know, for attention, if I wasn't on the basketball court, I just rumbled. I just started fighting, always, because that made me feel better. You know, I like a lot of young people, I had fear and respect confused. You know, I wanted people to respect me, but that came at the end of my fist. And, you know, if I couldn't beat you, then that's a different story, because then I respected you, but that didn't mean that I wasn't plotting on it. So coming up like that, you know, there's a lot of confusion. There was a lot of anger. I didn't want to go to school. I remember being in high school and throwing a desk across the classroom. When you look at a thing called ACEs, which is the Adverse Childhood Experiences, the four main principles that show that you have mental health issues, I had them down pat. I was disturbed. I hated everything. And, you know, and all it was is that I was looking to be loved by someone. And that put undue pressure on a girlfriend, you know. I wasn't abusive. I didn't even like to holler. I didn't scream. I just wanted to be at peace. And, you know, I think a lot of times when we grow up, we put those mother issues, you know, we have mama dramas. So, you know, because we missed what we thought and we couldn't comprehend, you know, you put that on a girlfriend and hoping that she would love you and understand, but I wouldn't talk. So, you know, that didn't help. So there was a whole lot of challenges. And the male friends that I had, if we didn't play basketball, then we was fighting. If we wasn't fighting, we was getting high, you know, especially smoking boat. Jesus, you know, I'm amazed that I'm still here.
Wow. Okay, I want to go back real quick because I want to ask about your mother, and this is a two question. How was your relationship with your mother, and do you feel as though your mother was scared of you?
There was a point that my mother was scared of me, and that's so regrettable because my mother was awesome. She was really a nice lady, really, really cool, really awesome. But I could understand why she would be. I mean, hell, I would have been too, because I was so wild and destructive. And like I said, I fearless, didn't care. You could have killed me the next day and I would have been all right with it. You know, it didn't matter. You know, because when you're fighting like that and you living like that and you don't have any comprehension to why you're angry, because I don't think that you really forget. I just think you file it away. And in filing it away, you accept it, you know, because abuse is considered somewhat like an acute trauma, something that happened. But then things, you know, become into another space where they become complex traumas or something that affects your development as a child as you grow up, because as they say, the reason why they let a lot of juveniles go now is because their brain wasn't fully developed until they're 25. So you can imagine being 15, 16, you smoking boke, you smoking sherms, all the thing you know how to do was play basketball, fight, fuck, and just, you're just wilding out. Because, in the 80s, the culture was wild. So.
Very true. Very true. Now, what at that time, I know you felt limited in what you could do or, what was available to you, but were there any specific, outlets that nobody, knew about that did bring you peace, or something that you even wanted that might have brought you peace to the whole situation?
Playing basketball and going on a run at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning at the just going on a run, because at that point we were living across the street from Eleanor in the houses, and so they always left the field open, the football field open. So 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care how cold it was or how hot, I would go and run maybe a mile, 2 miles, and come back in the house. But other than the basketball court, that was my sanctuary. Bless my heart, my old high school girlfriend, she was cool, but she really didn't stand a chance. And I don't say that negative because I never abused her or anything like that. I really cared about her. But, if you don't talk and nobody really fully understands how you feel, how can they help you?
Did as you got older and bigger, I know you said you stood up to your dad. Did you ever get in a fight with your dad?
Other than that one time, no. Because
No.
now we're apart. You know what I mean? And so that changed everything. But after all of that, I really I was just getting worse because, again, I didn't trust anybody. I couldn't be trusted. I couldn't even trust myself.
Whoa.
And I tell people that I remember being in prison, and we were having a group. Thinking for a Change, I think was the name of the group. And I remember sitting in the classroom because at that point I'm aware, I done worked out my demons. And I told the classroom, I said, I remember when I wasn't shit. And some people like, man, I would never admit that. I said, I can admit that because I'm a grown ass man. I said, because you have to come to a place where you can look at yourself and tell yourself the truth. And at that time, looking back at that point, I remember that I wasn't shit. And that's how I viewed it. And I didn't comprehend it well. I didn't know why. But, again, when you sit back and you go through that, the depth of introspection, then you understand that, damn, a lot of it wasn't your fault. It's just circumstances and, how those circumstances were most unfortunate. You're blessed at a point to understand them when you become a man.
And were you ever able to, have that, kind of truthful man-to-man talk with your father, about everything, or did y'all just leave it as it, was when he left?
No, actually, me and my pops are now cool. I mean, that's my dude now. And I know that'll surprise a lot of people because a lot of people will say, fuck that. But what a lot of people don't understand is, and you alluded to it earlier, I understand that he was, in the Vietnam War, but even before that, what did he go through? And as me and him talked, and he told me how he would get beat and he didn't know why, and how that affected him and how at one time he didn't like his father. So all of these things transfer. And when they did, I'm like, damn. So this is a generational situation. He didn't really start liking his father, but until he understood his father, but his father had died. And when we were starting to have those conversations, then that's when we grew. But I had other brothers that helped me while I was in prison that kept it on 10,000. And they said, well, look, man, you know, your mother is, she passed away. And one of the things she asked you to do was to talk to your father and get to know him. And, you know, and you need to ask him those questions if you any man at all. And so when I asked them, you know, before that, they told me that whatever he say, are you willing to be able to accept it? I said, because he's of that age group, he probably won't give you an answer. And true to that, you know, I was able to laugh because I had older brothers around me that suffered the same things with their current sons. So I was like a son to them that they wish they could talk to. And so they really schooled me on some heavy things. And that was the beginning of repairing my father and I's relationship.
That's deep. That's real deep. Okay, so I'm gonna kick back for I want to jump into your school and some of the things you went through school. I guess you were a bully
To a degree,
or
yes. And
to a degree.
you know, it's funny. At Roosevelt, in a
Hmm.
lot of places, I didn't had my moments. Now I'm not gonna lie, but overall, no, I was actually pretty cool as long as I wasn't bothered or I wasn't in my space. I was, you know, I just went through. I spoke to everybody because I just played ball. Um, I didn't back away from a fight though, not at all.
Were a lot of people scared of you?
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things you made? Why? Like certain people are scared of you because they see things. So why would a lot of them be afraid of you?
Because some of the stuff that I would do. I mean, you never knew. When I got put out of Roosevelt out in Maryland, this dude that ran a crew out that went to Duval, and I was at Roosevelt, and I ran I had my own crew, and he was just flapping his gums, you know, just talking, yapping, and he was cool with one of my partners, and you know, dude was just disrespectful, and for some reason, he thought he was more than who he should have thought he was, and so they come up on Roosevelt, and the dude crack on my girl. And I'm like, yo, what? And so I'm walking. She sees me and she's like, oh my God. And when I get to him, I take off. And I mean, I beat shit out this nigga. To be honest with you, I introduced myself. And when I put him down on that ground, I remember that I tried to, I literally tried to take him out. I started stomping him with them. I didn't have my Timbs on, but I had some Brogans, and I was kicking him in his ribs, and he wasn't even moving. And I'm laughing, and then I tried to kick his head literally off his shoulders twice. And it was when they said the administration is coming and the police coming, they had to pull me off because I won't finish. So, and I just laughed the whole time, because I knew that was it. I'm done. I'm finished. And I'm gonna introduce who I am. And so, it was because of the pain, the anger, the rage, and and Slim got that. And that was crazy. The crazy part is that I seen him again. And when I seen him again, he went from gangster to serving burgers and Wendy's. And when I seen him, I bust out laughing in front of the whole Wendy's like I was a maniac. And I laughed and laughed and laughed at him. I talked so much stuff to him while he was behind that counter. I talked trash to him when we went to court. I got to give it to him. He didn't press charges. But I told him if he had pressed charges, I would have killed you. I would have came back and killed you. And in fact, I wouldn't have just killed you. I'd have killed your whole family. I was on some other stuff. And, and when I tell young people, about that story. I don't tell it to be a gangster. I don't even tell that story to be a gangster on here, because what I learned is I wish that he was able to do that to me in order for I would have changed my life. That dude probably grew to be something amazing, whereas I end up doing something that cost me 26 years of my life, and I'm still on parole. And I hope that he did do something amazing. But in hindsight, I wish we could have reversed roles.
So the guy that you did this to, you got 26 years for, or another incident?
No, that's a whole other incident.
Okay, so we ain't gonna talk about that yet. We're gonna get there. Hold on. Say it up next.
That's a good introspective viewpoint to have. Think if something, that detrimental happened to you, things might have been a little bit different. With that being said, what was next for you? What was the game plan? After getting kicked out of school, how were things after that? What was going on around that time? What was your mind frame like, and what was the plan?
It was after I beat the case. It really didn't beat the case because my juvenile record was insane. I ended up going to Easter, and that didn't last for maybe a month and a half, and I got kicked out of Easter. We got to fighting some dudes from somewhere else, and I ended up catching another case, but that was a case for somebody else, and I wouldn't tell what happened. And but Slim got his eye split because he got hit so hard from an individual that he ran into a light post, and it split his eye open from one side, from his nose all the way down to the side, almost to his ear, the way he ran into that post. And got put out of there for that, and the fact that I was drinking with somebody on the same side on the church steps, on the church steps, and the principal's office was right there. So when I laugh at that, I don't laugh because, it's funny. I laugh because, man, how dumb was I? You know what I mean? It was like incredible. How stupid could you be, Slim? And that was a blown opportunity because I had some good basketball coaches there, in which I knew I could have got a scholarship from somewhere, but I was too busy still trying to impress people.
Ooh. Okay, so leading up to after that, did you just stop going to school? Were you just getting into more trouble? Because now you got a juvenile rap sheet.
I stayed in trouble, but the whole thing about it was I got another opportunity, and I ended up going to Anacostia. That was the best thing that could have ever happened. Anacostia, because at that time Anacostia was like the second worst school in the district behind Ballou, and I loved Anacostia. I felt so at home. I even started going to class, and I started liking school. And I know that sounds wild, but I started liking school maybe because of the name of it. I was home, no pressure. I didn't know anybody. I could just be me. I was left alone, unless I did have to fight. And only got into one of those. I like that so much. What cost me that was the fact that basketball season, the summer league.
Let me turn that light on. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right. And at Anacostia, oh boy. I liked it there. It was different. What cost me was in my senior year, I did something super stupid and got locked up at King's Dominion for being drunk. We had did something so stupid. We, me and one of my partners, we went up there. You remember those big mouth Mickeys, them little green joints? We had
Mm-hmm.
we had a whole cooler, no ice, and we drunk them joints from the city all the way down to Kingston, Maine.
And how old were you?
I was 17, 18, something like that. Anyway, we drove all the way down there, and I messed up the axle. So we parked next to a car that was similar to ours, the one that we had. And I said, yo, Slim, let's get the tire off this joint. He said, bet. I said, now you're going to have to move this car. I'm too drunk to move the car. And he said, man, we all right. I said, Slim, we're going to get locked up. But I'm too drunk to move that joint. I'm going to smash it took the grace of God to get down that joint. Because I'm blind. And we left the junk there. And after we left that joint there, we took the tire. We left the dude joint. We left that man with no car tire, but we parked right next to this dude. That tell you how simple. And we don't realize we're in Virginia, so that's even worse. What end up happening is we come out. Ain't no cars but our car and that car. I said, oh man, we looking around. We don't see nobody. My spidey senses don't go off because I'm still drunk. We get up there, man. This joker, the sheriff, he had one of them big hats on. He rides up on this big ass horse. I said, man, this can't even be real. He rolled up. I said, man, ain't no running. I ain't gonna get ran over by no horse. And when he pulled up on that horse, I said, man, we gone. And the thing about it is we stole a tire off a state trooper car.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
We didn't even know it was an undercover car. I said, oh man. And even though I was able, we was able to get home because we was juveniles, man, I messed around and I was doing good. I was at Jellup Summer League. Just won the MVP of the Summer League, doing the damn thing. And then I bust my kneecap open. So it was like, wow, that year was like unbelievable. But like I said, that stealing of that car tire had to be the dumbest, boy. I could have been on a video for that one as the dumbest criminal ever.
I'm glad y'all made it out of that, but definitely.
Not to laugh. It's funny to me. It's okay.
Down there, that's, yeah. Wow. That's the one that we all got them should have been stories. So now moving, with that being said, are you thinking about, the future at that point? What was the game plan for yourself? Or, you just kind of living day by day? Were there any, wants for your life that you want, even if you thought you couldn't succeed with getting them? Were there any higher heights you had your mind set on, or, anything you wanted to do if you could have done it?
I still wanted to play ball, and I got an opportunity to finish Anacostia. I didn't take advantage of the fact that, and I didn't know, the coach didn't tell me that I had an opportunity that if I had gone ahead and graduated, I could have went to North Carolina North Carolina Central, excuse me. So that was just blown, because even after that surgery, I ended up the year good and still made the DC All-Stars. So it wasn't that I couldn't ball. I could ball. It was just that, so much happened and I didn't have that belief. It's important that young brothers or young sisters as well have somebody in their ear to tell them and teach them how to deal with adversity, that this is a part of life. Is how you deal with it and how you comprehend it, but you need somebody to believe in you so you can always push forward.
Absolutely. So I want to ask, so now we going into, because you got a little touchy situation. How did you end up getting a first degree murder charge?
We was hustling, and we was going down in Virginia, deep Virginia. We was all the way down in Suffolk. If you know what Suffolk is, that's Tidewater. That's down there by the line. Now, nobody from the city got no business way down there. And, we were doing our thing. We were doing our thing a little bit. And we got caught up. And when we got caught up, caught the body. The nephew, my co-defendant's nephew, told on us. Even though he took us to where the dude was and went and got the dude. In VA, it was one of those things, he who snitches first walks away. That was insane. And both myself and his uncle ended up with life sentences.
Dang, did that I'm sure it put a damper on, their familiar relationship. But did you ever have a chance to, outside of, the court hearings, appearances and whatnot, had you all had any conversation after him giving his, interview, testimony, or whatever you want to call it? Did y'all ever, speak after that?
Oh, no, we ain't never had any more contact. I done seen, dude is from that area. You know what I mean? I didn't leave anything in VA as far as that, other than meeting some good soldiers down there. I didn't leave anything in Virginia. I don't need to see my Cody. I don't need to see his nephew. I don't need to see none of that, because that's was at this point. And there's no value in seeing any of them other than, no value in seeing any of them. I wish them well, my Cody well. His nephew, I don't have that type of thought pattern. He really doesn't matter one way or the other, because it doesn't have so much of anything to do with now. Because I'm not bitter, truthfully, all the wrongs that I had done and things like that. And I was blessed just to get a life sentence. On the real, I was blessed to get a life sentence. I could have got a natural life sentence, either state or fed. I could got on death row easily. There's so many other things that could have happened that I realized that I was blessed with just this life sentence and the possibility of parole. And I earned that trip. I earned that. I worked hard to go to prison. I'll be the first to say I'm far from innocent of a damn thing. But, I earned that.
So the guy took y'all to the guy. Y'all took his life, and he snitched on you. Do you feel like, what was your emotions at the time? Like, how did you feel? Or you just were so angry it didn't matter to you?
Well, I told my co-defendants that he was supposed to handle that. That's his fact. I told him that night that when he was dropped off, I said, you're not going to snitch on us. And if I had what I needed at that night, wouldn't have nobody left nothing. I'd have came home by myself. But I didn't have what I needed. So therefore, that was the end result. And like I said, I got what I was looking for. When I came home, I was amazed that I only did 26 years. I thought I would have been doing 35 or 40, at least.
Well, I know no sentence is a walk in the park, but what was that experience like for you, sentencing day when you knew you were actually going in, kind of take us through that thought process. And after, all that time skating off of, little things that you have done, and this was the big moment. Where were you at that time? What was your mind like?
Man, that was, I didn't shrink up or nothing. I remember when they were describing me and I was saying, damn, they making me sound like I'm the worst person on the planet Earth. I remember when they said, you killed one of the first citizens of our state. And I was like, him? I mean, goddamn, that man is as bad as I am, if not worse. He's selling your people crack, and you telling me I killed a fair citizen of your state. And then he said, because you come from Washington, D.C. And I said, oh, shit. And, D.C. was chasing number one as far as the murder capital. And I was like, oh, man, this is gonna hurt. But I remember looking back at my mother, and I was married at the time. And I'm looking at my mother like, they talking to me? They talking about me? I said, God damn. And she just looked at me and she just shook her head because she knew what I didn't know. And so when they sentenced me, man, I was like, wow. And I was angry. I was angry, and not so much angry in the way that you would think, but I was angry because when the judge sat up there, you have been sentenced to serve life with the possibility of parole in a male adult facility. And they asked me, do I want a review? Meaning that they give you 21 days to possibly get a lighter sentence. I said, no, I'm going to do what I got. Because I was so pissed. And because of all the things that transpired in my life, it was like, man, fuck it. You know what, man, just leave me alone. I'll just do my time. Just leave me alone. Because so many other things that transpired that led up to this moment, sometimes you just had enough. You just tap out. And that's what I did.
So, can you tell us, because we always try to dig because we hear so many different stories in the prison system. Can you tell us some of the things that you went through, like being locked up or new adjustments that you had to make incarcerated?
Okay, I'm going to explain something. Because a lot of people be bullshit. When you go to jail, and especially now, they strip you. They strip you down. You got to stand naked in front of another grown ass man. Now, because of my crimes, people was always leery. So I wasn't asked to do certain things like, squat and cough. That's one thing. But to bend over and open your ass so they can look at your asshole, hell no. That's what they do. After you go through your jail thing and all of that, and then you got to deal with the dudes because you got a lot of jail gangsters. They tough in jail, but in real life, man, them jokers are soft for drugstore cotton. And then after you get past that joint and you get ready to go to prison, now reality kicks in. Because now when you go to prison, they strip you out of all your clothes. And after they strip you out of all your clothes, they make you take this cold ass shower. And after you get out of the shower, they spray you down with this bullshit ass bug spray to make sure you don't have lice, bed bugs, and all of that stuff on you. And so, all of the humanizing things. And again, you taking your clothes off in front of a bunch of men. And then they want to give you some ugly drawers. There ain't nothing new. It's all dingy. The t-shirts dingy. The boxers are dingy because you're not gonna wear no tighty whities in there, not unless you into other things. So when you look at those stuff, and how at that point your mindset got to change. So when you go inside the cage and you're dealing with all these jokers, and the guys that I knew, all of us, man, we had everybody that I went to prison with from that space, from that county, either had life plus on a ridiculous number of years. So I'm in prison, 24 years old. I don't even care. It's going to be whatever. If I die tomorrow, at least I know I'm going to go out like a soldier. So those are the things that, you adjust. And then when you get in there, you're so green that the rule book don't mean anything. It's the unwritten laws that you got to deal with. So you have another adjustment. You got to watch your homeboys because some of them are wild. They'll sell you down the river. So I didn't get high in prison or drink in prison. I didn't do any of those things. I did have that kind of discipline. But it was, it's a total different mindset. And everything illogical has to make logical sense to you. The first time you see a man in a skirt and you think it's a CO or somebody else until somebody pull your coat, say, nah, man, that's Charlie. Like, what? I said, okay, now you got a whole different thing going on. So, the world that you enter is something totally different. And you had to respect everybody because at that time, a homosexual will kill you before anybody else.
That's I don't even know what the word is, but I'm sure that that takes a toll on you. Just having to kind of be on guard all the time, looking over your shoulder or trying to compartmentalize how somebody feeling today. If they upset, a simple argument. It's a lot that you got to go through, while in prison. Were there any, what you could say, good moments or accomplishments that you made while, behind bars?
I mean, I got a rack of certifications, but the best thing that I've done was graduate with a 3.7 out of college and became a college tutor. And that's when I started helping others. And I did like 10 plays in prison, in which one of them that I actually didn't do in prison was done out here in the street. So, but those were in my latter years. That was like 2010, 2012. Because I came home December 13, 2017. In between there's ups and downs sometimes because I went up for parole 13 times. Those were challenging because I know one year I bucked straight up. I wasn't going because I'm like, the dudes that are around me, they done did 35, 40 years. And I'm like, man, I'm on what was that at that time? I think I was on number 17. Maybe 18 years. And I was like, man, I ain't going home no time soon. The hell with this. When they decide to let me go, I'll go. But other than that, I am tired of keep coming over here, all clean cut, shaved up, clothes ironed. And I'm begging these people to let me go, knowing that they ain't going to let me go no matter what I say.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Can you what advice would you give a troubled child that has been through challenges growing up, just as you, being abused by their dad or their mom, and they're angry and they're hurt and they're pain and they're lashing out in aggression, because we see a lot of that going on now, because these youths are not picking up guns for no reason or getting angry and aggressive for no reason. What advice would you give them to mentally just stop, take a step back and look at themselves to help them change the aggression or anger that they're going through? Because maybe you can help a parent that's dealing with a troubled child.
It's not so much on them. And I know that's a strange answer. And the reason why I say that is this. Because as you know, I work with youth too. And because I'm a returning citizen And I often look back in introspection because I remember me. I remember what I went through. I haven't forgotten. Some of us choose to forget. Some of us want to tell them dumbass war stories as if they're meaningful. And that's why a lot of these youngins still are getting trapped up, because they don't understand why, what was going on. I believe it's more incumbent on the brothers that went through that went through the prisons and see what was going on to be able to save them. I honestly believe that. In fact, I know that, because they're not going to listen to the average person. They respect people that they imagine would be their father. And for some dudes to be able to step up, to say, you know, hey, young, I was you. I don't want you to be me. I don't want you to destroy everything because X, Y, Z happened. It happened for a bigger reason. And I know it won't make sense now, but what you have to understand is the things you're going through were meant for you to go through, because of the way things was planned out. The communities are destroyed for a reason. What you have to do is survive and have the people around you that you can trust to talk to, that you understand. But because a lot of us won't step up to make the difference, we'll watch and we'll say, man, them youngers are dumb. Or we'll say, man, them youngers is crazy. Man, I ain't got nothing to say to them. Okay, that's a choice. But what happened if you're the only one in that area because they looked up to you that you can save? You're not going to get all of them, because you're going to always have those who are good, and you're going to have those that got those challenges, because, you know, it's unfair, but you're going to need them to be strong in the future. And that's how I look at it with myself. And I know that's kind of wild or hard to really understand or grasp, but it's like with some women that go through hell, you know, not everybody goes through it, but a woman that goes through hell saves those who don't, as well as those who have not. Whereas people that have lived some pretty good lives, they only can save one group. You know, why is that so? Hey, man, I don't know. But I do know that it's going to be incumbent on those that understand the tricks of society to be able to go and save those young people, to be able to tell them, you know, hey, I get it, I understand, and to be able to talk to them in a way, because you got to find a way to speak to them in a way to say, hey, man, I got you. I got you. You know, what I've done, I did this at Kroon, and I did this also with some students from Eleanor Roosevelt. I told them that I apologized. And they looked at me like, what are you apologizing for? Because, you know, children don't hear adults apologize. And I said, I was 55 at the time. And I said, when I'm 55, well, 56 now, I said, if you go back 20 years, your parents would be 36 or give or take. And you about 16, 15, between 15 and 17 years old, right? And they said, yeah. I said, well, when I went to prison, I was 24, which means that if I had a child, a son or a daughter, they would have been between 3 and 5 years of age. I wasn't able to teach my son how to be a man, much less how to be a good son. I wasn't there. I wasn't able to be a good father to my daughter because wasn't there. That means I would have missed her first dance. I would have missed dancing with her, taking her out on her first date. So that means I was the first one to break her heart and the example of men to come. With my son, he might have thought that now he got to be a tough guy like his father. And so in this mindset, he may have grown the next so many years. So I spent 26 years in prison, come home at 50. The adult would be 30, be it my son or my daughter. My son would probably have some of my bad stuff in him. And if no one ever taught him how to be a man, especially me, and how to conquer those weaknesses, then he would have his foolishness added on top of that, which means that would have been a poor father. And if her mother is my daughter and they never seen a real relationship, but nothing but dysfunction, then that's my fault. Because if she's abused or see herself less than who she actually truly can be and is, then her daughter is going to see certain things. So now y'all are 16 wondering what the hell is going on, why y'all so messed up or this and that. But in all reality, it's my fault because I failed as a grandparent to make your parents who they're capable of being. And I robbed you of being the greatness of who you are as my grandchild. Because we supposed to be eating, celebrating you thinking about going to college, you doing some amazing things. But because you don't understand all the traumas you've gone through that are at the root of which I have caused, I'm sorry. That's how you got to do it.
Powerful.
There's a brother named Pastor Queen from out of First Baptist. And, he believes and he teaches through his program, his mentorship program, that returning citizens have to make the change in the community because we were the ones that tore the community up, especially in my age and generation. Because in the 80s, we were so busy trying to be Scarface and all this old crazy stuff that all that poison dripped and poured down to where it is now. But again, we so busy telling war stories and making ourselves, look foolish. With young, you couldn't have made it in my day, man. If we don't stop, this is not a competition. We watching our people die. It's worse now because, how many times do we got to repeat the same cycle over and over and over again? How is it that when I was a little boy, I can go past Division Avenue back then and see the same thing that we see now? And some of these other places, you see the same thing. It's like, if on Netflix, they got that movie, they cloned Tyrone. Why do we got to keep cloning Tyrone? We constantly doing the same thing. We're not going to read. We're not going to talk that real stuff. We a great deal of us are going to repeat the same habits that don't do anything for anybody but cause destruction. And that's one of the things, like what we do as far as on global leadership. We focus on how we're going to change the system by means of that leadership, and the form of leadership that we offer is called identity leadership, which means that to be able to go within, to go in depth into that introspection and be able to see and to be able to forgive ourselves in order to be beneficial to others, because we know it's not about us, it's about tomorrow. And if you're not about tomorrow, then you're about yesterday, and that's death. Your story should be a lesson to what not to do and how to groom the next generation, because I'm 56. I'm chasing the hell out of 60. And this is not my world. My world was when I was going through Roosevelt, doing all the wild stuff that I was doing. But this world belongs to them youngins that's getting ready to take charge and control of their own destiny. We didn't have to face IG and the likes. We didn't have to face all these extra stuff. When I was coming up, we still had individuality. Whereas now you see, a million girls going to school with the bonnets, and you see all these youngins, no belts, but they got their pants and they showing their Jones, you know what I mean? They showing their ass. And it's like, Slim, that's not even normal. A lot of these soldiers wearing these slim fit jumps, like, Slim, that's not even normal. and you keep talking about you a soldier, but you if you get into a fight, you got to hold your pants up with one hand because your ass is out and the junk's gonna fall out. Like, nah, man, what's up? The music, some of the music is so depressing. You know what I mean? Sad shit. You know what I mean? And you talking about getting high all the time, and it's like, man, no, you're throwing away your life like we did, and in order for our community to live, you got to do something different, because between AI, and a lot of jokers think that they're going to work in the warehouse. You got robots that are getting ready to do that. They talk about in the year 2050, the medium income for Black families is going to be zero. So you either going to be above the level or you're going to be way below the level. You got a choice. And we see it now with the gentrification, whereas where the city was chocolate, it's no longer chocolate, because we done gave up all our power and all our blessings in order to do something so wonderful and beautiful. We worry about the Wizards going to VA. We worry about the Commanders going to VA, the hockey team going to VA. But look at our environment. Our environment is insane. We're doing some of the most outrageous stuff, and we're not making a difference. I know some brothers that I came home with that are certified geniuses. Certified genius. They a step away from being millionaires if they told their story and do what they do. But again, you have to have a desire and a want to be able to do something to make a difference in other people's lives, because not everybody want to make a difference. And that's what's so tragic. That's one of the reasons why these podcasts, especially this one, is so important, because when we talk about traumas, okay, you can help somebody else with theirs and understand that, your story, because of what you told and what you shared, is more powerful than you think. It's more than even a healing balm, because the further you go into it, you say, man, I didn't realize that, but you made it. I was, one of my mentors recently died, and that was a blow to what we do. Dr. Mark Golson, awesome man. And he gave me assignment to give the people that I'm working with. And what it was is, he said, face your trigger. And what I want you to do, Alexander, is talk to your group and tell them the person that suffered from a trauma, go look at them in the mirror and talk directly to that person and tell that person it's okay for you to leave, because look at who you have become since that time, how you made it in your life, how you've grown in your life, how many people that you done, look at your successes as a person since that time that you was hurt. You can go. You don't have to stay. I'm all right. You are okay. And that was some heavy stuff, because I took that to the homeless shelter and I took that to my immediate group. And many of them was like, wow, and I did it with myself. And, and it's okay to shed them tears, because I had to talk to that 16-year-old that was hurt. I had to talk to that abused little boy. I had to talk to him like, yo, you can go. It's okay. Look at me now. Look at all of that abuse and look how strong I am. Look how, mentally tough that I had become. I survived prison. I read, I study. Well, you can see I read all that stuff in the background. There's so much to that. You don't have to be that person that endured that. That's a choice. And, so when I think about Doc, and I hate the fact that he passed, but he was so awesome in regards to what he shared, and what he shared not just with me, but the people all around. And I think, boss man Doug from OGL, and Dan, and the people that are pouring in me and able me to be able to work with other returning citizens to share what I've gained and to be able to cause them to grow and to be able to coach and mentor them, as well as what I'm doing at Metalworks, to be able to talk to people and in that situation and say, hey, now we don't let that defeat us, man, because I'm here to help you win. I don't take losses. I take wins. And you here because you talking to me, you here to win. So there's a expectation when I deal with people. Like, I don't want to waste my time if you're defeated, because I can't help you if you're defeated. I need you to know that you can win. But do you have the heart to win? Are you willing to fight? Because when you're dealing with that person in the mirror, you got to make a decision. Is the person in the mirror real, or are you going to be real? And it's okay if you are not able to tell yourself that, you don't love yourself at that minute. Go ahead, break down, cry, do whatever you need to do. But now we're going to start building the person up so they can begin to like themselves. And once you learn to like yourself and see the beauty of who you are, then you'll be able to begin to love yourself. And when you love yourself, that positive energy attracts others, and you can also teach them to do the same. So that's the whole thing.
Very powerful. And I guess I don't have to ask for advice. You've given a lot of it. So we're actually at time. Let Sid go ahead and kick off the final. We want to thank you. We want to thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, you awesome, Demetria. Same thing with you too, Sid. I'm just meeting you, but I appreciate you allowing me to have some of your time to share.
Thank you
Amen.
so much. Yes.
It's an honor.
Absolutely. Now you do see your information scrolling across the bottom here. We do like to call this segment shameless plug. So anything that you want the audience or our viewers to know, how to contact you, how to utilize your services, anything that you like to draw traffic or attention to, you have the floor.
The email is cool. The IG, I got to tighten up, but we get ready to come up with something shortly in which I'm going to pass on to you. One of the things that I focus on with one of my partners, guy named David Chernew. He's been in education for over 30 years. That's my guy. We're working on a project that's going to be out in Cali. And everything I do, DC can be wild. So we do everything out and bring it back because it makes sense. Face the bully within. Don't let that bully within you defeat you. Face that bully, and if you need help facing that bully, find somebody that'll hold your hand. Somebody that that'll go within the dark with you. Because I know with the people that I help, I go inside their darkness because I face my own and I ain't scared. I believe that I bring a light, and we're gonna fight fear. We're gonna fight that person or that thing that is holding you back, and we're gonna win. But you're gonna have to face that bully so you can live. If you want to live, then let's get it. Face that bully. That's what I got to say. Just face your bully and make a difference.
Positive. So we're at time. Alexander, I want to thank you. We love that you kept it raw, honest, transparent. I know there's a lot more to your life experience, and hopefully we can have you back to share more because your life testimony is deep. So we want to thank everyone for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. And we hope that you took a lot of takes from Alexander's story, especially those returning citizens or someone young or someone that you know that is going through these struggles. He went through childhood abuse. His childhood abuse affected his adult decisions. They brought anger, aggression, hurt, pain. When he lashed out in anger. But now Alexander is here now to sit. He's helping so many to face their reflection in the mirror, to face that bully in the mirror, and to asking you, let go of your hurt and pain and focus on healing. Alexander, we want to thank you, and we want to thank everyone for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences, and we will see you soon.